Landlords won't accept your vouchers. Here's my thoughts on how to get it done. So, welcome back, good people. Chris Newton here. Chris Newton Real Estate. Everything Chris Newton Real Estate. Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, website, chrisnewtonrealestate.com. Email me. Send me an email at heychris@chrisnewtonrealestate.com. So, let's talk about it. Why don't landlords want to accept Section 8 vouchers and other vouchers? So in New York, right, I'm not too sure about everywhere else. In New York, there's tons of vouchers. You have the HPD vouchers, you have the Section 8 vouchers, you have the soda vouchers, you have the City Flips vouchers, and probably a few more, right? Now, these vouchers are for individuals or families, right, that need financial help to be able to get housing, right? So, let's say they may get it through the shelter system. Most get it through the shelter system. Others get it, let's say something tragic happens to somebody's house, right? And it gets flooded or it gets burned down, there's a fire. And now there's an emergency voucher that gets presented to you for the city or that corporation to help find you housing. So now you have a means of getting assistance. You have a means of getting assistance to find yourself housing for you, your loved ones, and you're running into an issue getting it accepted, right? Landlords don't want to accept your voucher. What does this mean? Really means landlords don't want to accept your voucher, right? Just to be fair, just to be straightforward and candid. Now, is this right? Some will say no, some will say whatever, some will say yes. Now, here are my thoughts on it. So, we can't force somebody to do something that they don't want to do, right? We cannot force a landlord to take your voucher. They're either going to take it or they're not. This is the reality of it, right? So some may say it's discrimination, financial discrimination. You're not supposed to be able to say no. Listen, it is what it is, right? It's just like when certain people look on an application and they see that you have a certain kind of skin tone or a certain background. They can't outright say, I don't want to hire you because of this, but they may find other qualifiers to say you don't qualify, to be hired here, right? So, or they just might skip over your application altogether. Who knows, right? Here's the issue, or here's a few issues in my experience from me talking to landlords, from me talking to tenants, just from the outside looking in, right? The problem is there's a stereotype of individuals with vouchers, right? There's the stereotype that they're loud, they're rambunctious, they're destructive, right? They just don't care. They tear up the place. They just, when it's not yours, you just don't care. Especially if they're covering all of the rent. Let's say the city is covering all of the rent, right? Or whatever financial institution, what you want to call it, is taking care of the entire rent. So your rent is $3,000. So you have a nice $3,000 apartment, but you're not paying anything. A lot of people would take that for granted, and the house will smell like cigarettes, it'll smell like weed, it'll smell like everything, right? Chicken bones everywhere. These are things that I've seen, and these are things that landlords tell me. So, you'll get holes in the wall. Things will break down. The water bill is super high because they're just running the water, and it's just so many things that are happening, right, that inconvenience a landlord and hurt them financially, right? Now that's for the tenants. So now they also feel like you're getting the bottom They get in the bottom of the trash, right? Again, I'm not saying it. It may not be good to hear, but this is the stereotype that comes with vouchers. Not saying it's true, not saying it's not. This is why there's so much hesitation to accept vouchers from what I see. So a lot of landlords possibly feel like they're going from the bottom of the trash, and they are, you're just the worst of the worst, right? You're just the worst of the worst. Is it right to say that? No. And here's a fun fact, right? Me, Chris Newton, I am from the slums, right? I am from Crown Heights, Brooklyn, right? Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York. The part of Crown Heights I grew up in was the slums. We had a dead end block, and me and my family was also on Section 8, right? So this is me just being real. Now, my mom, she always said, just because you grew up on Lincoln Place doesn't mean you have to look like you live on Lincoln Place. So the floors were redone, the cabinets were redone. Like, she made sure like we looked a certain way and we lived a certain way, even though we were on Section 8, right? So and my mom worked, and she worked one job, two jobs, three jobs, did side jobs just to make ends meet, right? These are things that she did. I stayed outside. I was a latchkey kid. I stayed outside. We would go with the neighbors and like everything, right? But we didn't live like we were from the slums. We were just from the slums. But from the most part, from what I saw, a lot of people that lived on my block did live a certain way. So a lot of landlords see that and they feel like, I don't want that for my property. I paid 200,000. I paid $1 million. I paid 500,000. I don't want my property looking a certain way. I don't want to have to get phone calls about this, that, and the third. And I got everybody just hanging out in the house that I bought, and they just tearing my house up, right? Also, on the agency side of things, right? Because there's supposed to be an incentive for the landlords to accept Section 8 and other vouchers, right? So the bright side of it is, if somebody loses their job or somebody can't afford all of the rent, you're still getting a big portion of the rent or all of it, right? So if you charge $3,000, the agency might pay the $3,000, right? So you don't have to worry about that. That's consistent every month. Maybe they can only afford $1,000 and the agency will pick up the other $2,000. You're still getting that $2,000 every month, no matter what, from the agency. So if something happens with the tenant, you're still getting $2,000. Rather, if something happens with the tenant and they can't afford the entire rent, you miss out on the full $3,000. Now, what happens with that other $1,000? Hopefully, that tenant is responsible enough to pay that other $1,000, right? Unfortunately, that's not the case all of the time. So now when you go back and you tell the agency, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Smith hasn't paid their portion of the rent in 2 to 3 months, the agency is saying, oh, well, that's out of our control. Take them to court. So now you're still missing a third of your rent up until you take them to court, right? The agency, when they do these inspections, it's very inconvenient, and they'll stop your payment for the silliest of things. So even if you do have good tenants, the people at the agency might be difficult to work with. So now you're like, listen, I want to be able to help the people that have these vouchers, but I can't, or I'm discouraged from doing so because the agency is just such a big pain in the you-know-what, right? So those are like the two big. Now, on the flip side of things, there are tenants who not tenants, there are landlords who only want to work with Section 8, Section 8 vouchers, only want to work with them, period. Like, they do not want to work with the outside public. They only want to work with people that have Section 8, all these other vouchers. Why? Because they see it, and it's also on my channel. I interviewed Charles Weinrob, and he spoke about it. There's individuals, there are landlords that only want to work with Section 8 people. Why? As I stated before, they are consistent income. The agency will pay that money, granted everything is good, right? Also, you may get some tenants, maybe a lot of tenants, that they don't want to mess up the good thing they got going on, so they'll take care of the property. It's really just a vetting process and a lotto process, right? Lottery, you pick out that hat really, because if you got 10 people with Section 8 vouchers, all of them really qualify, right? If all 10 of them are going to be paid in full, now it was just an interview process if you do that. So those are the reasons as to why the landlords give you such a hard time with purchasing, not purchasing, with accepting your vouchers. How do you fix that? It's not a one person, like it's not a one man band, but it has to start somewhere. The way this gets fixed is the agencies have to get better at doing, they have to do a way better job in what they're doing. One. Two, the tenants that you have in place, they have to take care of the properties better. They have to take care of the properties better. You know, it's instances where it'll be like, okay, it's just a mom and her 2 or 3 kids, right? And then the boyfriend moves in and he brings in his 2 or 3 kids, and then the uncle moves in, and all of, like, now you got 13 people living in this 2 bedroom apartment. Now people do what they gotta do, right? I understand that because again, I'm from the slums. But from the landlord's perspective, they don't want that, because the more people that's in that house, the more of a risk it is to tearing up the place. The floors are messed up, the walls are messed up, the stove is now broken, the toilet seat is broken, the heat. Somebody got the heat all the way up on 90 something degrees, with the windows open and water running. It's like, okay, this is crazy, right? So landlords are like pulling out their hair and they're like, I don't want to deal with this, right? So we have to take into consideration from the landlord's perspective, how can we be model tenants to make land, and it might take a few years of this happening, but how do we become model tenants so the people that really need the help 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they won't have such a hard time um, getting their vouchers accepted. Because again, a lot of these people come from hard times. They coming from situations where maybe it's domestic violence, right? Maybe they fell on super hard times and got evicted, and now they had to move into a shelter, and they spent the 3 months, the 6 months, the 9 months, the 12 months, to whatever in there, and they finally qualify for this voucher, or maybe they've been on a wait list for Section 8 for the 2, 3 years, and they really want something better for themselves. They just they just fell on hard times and have been trying to recover ever since they fell on hard times. And that little bit of assistance is something that they need. That chance is something that they need, but they can't catch a break, right? They can't catch a break. So it's like we finally got the voucher. I have 2 kids, the father isn't around, or I have 2 kids, the mother isn't around, and I just really want to get out this situation, be able to cook for my kids and be able to do all these things, so I don't got to worry about a place for them to lay down. I don't got to worry about going back to a shelter at a certain amount of time and getting de-bedded at a certain amount of time because I'm not there. And like, maybe I want to go visit my mom or visit my aunts and visit so on and so forth, but I can't do that. I got to miss these functions because I don't have a place to stay. So now I finally get this voucher. And I can't do it because landlords are scarred. So we got to kind of do our part. Speaking as tenants, you got to kind of do our part on the healing process to help the healing process of these landlords, so these landlords can do their part on accepting the vouchers and being able to help you. Again, there are landlords that want to help. There are landlords that saying, I don't care about, you got a $200,000 a year job, I don't care, I want Section 8. And there are some landlords that just like, listen, as long as I get my money, I get my money. I don't care. But this is for the people that cannot get their vouchers accepted. You have to become model tenants. You have to become model tenants. Start working. Eat like, and it's tough because a lot of these vouchers, they're the way they're set up is if you make a certain amount of money, you don't qualify for this. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And in my opinion, it's really set up to keep you in debt. Keep real. It's really to keep you in poverty, not in debt, to keep you in poverty. It's really kind of set up that way because you can't make a certain amount of money, but the way, the cost of living is, once you start trying to make a certain amount of money, you won't be able to qualify for the voucher anymore or the Section 8 program anymore. But now you still don't qualify to actually rent another place or purchase another place. So it's like you got to start doing things off the books and side. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I empathize because again, I'm from that. So I totally empathize with everybody that's going and doing that. Totally empathize. So this is my advice. Don't, if you do go see these properties, right? When it's time for you to actually go out and view these homes, don't go there smelling like weed. Don't go there smelling like cigarettes. Fellas, pull your pants up. Ladies, take them bonnets off. Like, even though that shouldn't determine your worth or your value or who you are as a person, people in America, image and perception is everything. So fellas, pull your pants up. Ladies, I'm talking to the colored folk, Fellas, pull your pants up. Ladies, take the bonnets off. Don't go there because people are going to view you, regardless if it's true or not, they're going to view you as a potential problem tenant, and they're not going to want to deal with you. So go there, be on your best behavior, present yourself well. Now, don't try to be too perfect because people are going to be able to see through the BS as well, right? I was about to say the bull word. But people are going to be able to see through that as well, and they're going to say, okay, this person is fake. Be yourself. Just be the best version of yourself. You don't have to, hey, Bob, oh my God, this is I love it so much. No, you don't have to do that, right? You can go there, you can see it. Don't start acting entitled. Like they have to do this and they have to do that. They're already going to, listen, if it's like this already, I can imagine what kind of tenants they're going to be. I don't want to deal. So that's my advice. Be on your best behavior. Don't go there smelling like weed. Don't go there I've had people walk up on open house smelling like weed, drunk, cigarettes, like everything. And then they'll FaceTime their friend, they'll FaceTime their girlfriend or their best friend, and girl, oh my God, and da 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 da, and it's just so embarrassing. It's really just so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. Also, don't go there, right? And this is like a regular job interview. Don't go there looking like $1 million, but on a voucher, right? People will pick up on that. Right? It's almost as if you see like the homeless people on the train and they're asking and begging for money with their hat or so on and so forth, but they have Pradas on and a Hermes belt and this, that, and the third, a Mary jeans, and you're like, listen, how are you asking for money? And now you must be doing something else. Like, this is crazy, right? Like, it's going to make it seem like your priorities aren't where they need to be, or you're doing something else that you shouldn't be doing. Now, you could have bought that stuff when you were on good times. Yes, I totally understand that. The problem is, again, perception. All right? This is a long video. This was 19. Oh, my gosh. Listen, you guys have any more questions? Give me a call. Chris Newton Real Estate, 347-993-0051. I'll talk to you guys soon. Later.